Before the advent of Islam in the 7th century Common Era, the Arabian Peninsula was a vibrant and dynamic region populated by numerous tribes and cultures. These communities were deeply shaped by the harsh desert environment that surrounded them, which influenced not only their daily lives but also their social, economic, and spiritual systems. The tribes that inhabited this region created unique structures that allowed them to survive and thrive despite the often unforgiving conditions. Their influence, however, extended far beyond the confines of the desert, affecting neighboring regions and leaving a legacy that still resonates in the cultural and political dynamics of the Arabian world. By exploring the life, struggles, achievements, and customs of these tribes, we gain a deeper understanding of the roots of Arabian history and culture, and how these early societies laid the groundwork for the rise of Islam and the development of the broader Islamic civilization. Tribal structure and social organization. The tribes of pre-Islamic Arabia, often referred to as al-Badia or people of the desert, were primarily organized into extended family groups known as qabilas, tribes. These clans were bound together through shared ancestry, mutual protection, and a deep sense of loyalty to one another. The system of kinship was central to their social organization, and it formed the very foundation of their societies. It dictated everything from social relations to governance, and even the way disputes were resolved. As the tribes lived in close-knit communities where survival often depended on cooperation, tribal kinship played a crucial role in ensuring harmony and stability. Each tribe had a leader known as a sheikh, who was responsible for guiding the tribe and making decisions that affected its members. The sheikh's authority was not based on coercion or force, but on the consensus of the tribe. His role was to mediate disputes, represent the tribe in external matters, and ensure the welfare of its members. Decisions were often made collectively, with important matters being debated and discussed in tribal councils called majlis. These gatherings were vital in fostering a sense of collective responsibility and consultation, and they allowed for democratic decision-making, where the voice of each tribal member could be heard. One of the most important values in tribal culture was hospitality, known as karam. The desert, with its scarcity of resources, necessitated a culture of generosity and protection for travelers and guests. Offering shelter, food, and protection was not just a matter of kindness, but a fundamental duty. This practice helped to strengthen bonds between different tribes and facilitated trade and cooperation. The Diwan was another significant feature of social life, where poets would gather to recite their works in public assemblies. Poetry was more than just art. It was a powerful tool for preserving history, reinforcing tribal identity, and even resolving conflicts. Poets were highly respected, seen as the voices of their people, and their words often carried the weight of history and tradition. Trade and economy. Despite the arid climate and harsh conditions, pre-Islamic Arabia was a thriving economic hub, strategically positioned for trade between several great empires. Cities like Mecca and Yathrib, later known as Medina, became key centers of commerce due to their location along major trade routes. These routes connected the Arabian Peninsula to far-reaching networks that included the Roman Empire, Persia, and the Indian subcontinent. Tribes such as the Quraysh, the tribe that controlled Mecca, capitalized on their strategic location, facilitating trade between East and West and amassing considerable wealth and influence. Trade in pre-Islamic Arabia was centered around caravan journeys that crossed vast stretches of desert, carrying valuable goods. Caravans transported a variety of items, such as frankincense, myrrh, spices, textiles, and precious metals. These goods were highly sought after, both for their economic value and their cultural significance. Many of these items were used in religious rituals, and they played an important role in the social and spiritual lives of the people. The Bedouins, the nomadic tribes that roamed the desert with their herds of camels and goats, were essential in the facilitation of trade. Their knowledge of the desert landscape made them indispensable guides for merchants and caravans. In return, Bedouin tribes received goods, wealth, and political influence, which allowed them to solidify their status within Arabian society. Marketplaces such as the Souk Okaz became vital cultural and economic hubs where merchants, poets, and diplomats gathered. These markets were not only important for trade but also for the exchange of ideas, stories, and poetry, making them centers of both commerce and cultural interaction. Spiritual beliefs and practices. Before the rise of Islam, the spiritual beliefs of the Arabian tribes were diverse and multifaceted. Polytheism was widespread, and many tribes worshipped a pantheon of deities associated with natural elements like the sun, moon, and stars. Sacred sites, such as the Kaaba in Mecca, housed idols that represented these deities and served as important focal points for religious practice and ritual. The Kaaba was particularly significant as a religious site that united the various tribes of the Arabian Peninsula. Pilgrimages to Mecca were not only spiritual journeys but also occasions for economic exchange and political negotiation. The Quraysh tribe, who were the custodians of the Kaaba, held significant power because of their role in overseeing the annual pilgrimages and the associated trade that took place. Alongside polytheism, there were also monotheistic influences in the region. Jewish and Christian communities had established themselves in areas like Yemen and Najran, and there were groups of Zoroastrians and Hanifs, people who rejected idolatry in favor of worshipping a single god. These diverse religious traditions created a rich spiritual landscape in pre-Islamic Arabia, which provided a fertile ground for the eventual rise of Islam. The tradition of poetry was also deeply intertwined with religious beliefs, with poets often invoking divine powers and natural forces to express the spiritual and existential concerns of their communities. The role of women. The status and role of women in pre-Islamic Arabian society were complex and varied depending on the tribe and its social structure. While some women held positions of power and influence within their tribes, others faced significant challenges and restrictions based on their social and economic standing. Women in pre-Islamic Arabia had the legal right to own property, engage in trade, and even participate in tribal councils. For example, the poet Al-Kansa gained fame for her eloquence and wit, demonstrating that women could contribute intellectually and culturally to Arabian society. However, the period was also marked by harsh practices, such as female infanticide, which reflected the patriarchal nature of many tribal systems and the low status of women in certain contexts. Marriage was a critical institution in pre-Islamic Arabia, and it was often arranged to strengthen alliances between tribes. Women's roles within the family were deeply respected, and they were viewed as the custodians of tribal honor. The loyalty and resilience of women were celebrated in poetry and oral traditions, which portrayed them as key figures in preserving the integrity and dignity of their tribes. The stories of historical figures like Queen Bilqis, or the Queen of Sheba, demonstrated that women could attain significant political and cultural power in pre-Islamic Arabia. These legends show that, while women's roles were often confined by social norms, they could also play influential roles in governance and diplomacy. Tribal conflicts and alliances. Conflict was an inherent part of life in pre-Islamic Arabia, primarily driven by competition over vital resources such as water and grazing lands. Feuds between tribes were common, and many rivalries spanned multiple generations. These conflicts, known as vendettas, were often deeply personal, as tribes fought to defend their honor, protect their territory, and maintain their autonomy. Despite the frequent warfare, tribes also engaged in complex systems of alliances and treaties. These alliances were often formed to strengthen the tribe's collective security, enhance their economic power, or resist common enemies. Such pacts were formalized through rituals, oaths, and even marriages, underscoring the interconnected nature of Arabian tribal society. One of the most notable examples of tribal conflict is the War of Bosses, a long-running feud between two tribes that lasted for more than 40 years. The war became legendary and was immortalized in poetry, highlighting the deep emotions and pride associated with tribal conflicts. Yet, even in the midst of these fierce rivalries, there were periods of peace, such as the sacred months, during which hostilities were suspended to allow for cultural and economic flourishing. During these times, tribes could trade, hold religious festivals, and come together to strengthen their social ties. Legacy and influence. The desert tribes of pre-Islamic Arabia played a crucial role in shaping the cultural, economic, and political structures that would later define the Islamic era. Their resilience, adaptability, and ability to thrive in harsh conditions remain a testament to human ingenuity and resourcefulness. These tribes laid the foundations for many of the values that would later become central to Islamic teachings, including loyalty, honor, and hospitality. The tribal values of pre-Islamic Arabia continue to influence modern Arabian culture. The importance of loyalty to family and tribe, the respect for elders, and the emphasis on generosity and hospitality are still core aspects of social life in the Arabian Peninsula today. Understanding the history of these tribes provides valuable insights into the development of Arabian identity and offers lessons on leadership, community, and survival in challenging circumstances. The memory of these tribes is preserved in modern genealogies, folklore, and regional traditions, ensuring that their legacy remains an integral part of Arabian culture. Conclusion. The story of the pre-Islamic Arabian tribes is a remarkable testament to the power of unity, resilience, and cultural exchange. Through their social systems, trade networks, and spiritual beliefs, these tribes helped shape the identity of the Arabian Peninsula and laid the groundwork for the rise of Islam. Their influence endures, offering a rich and vibrant history that continues to define the region to this day. By understanding the complexities of these early societies, we gain a deeper appreciation of the cultural and historical foundations of the Arabian world and the enduring legacy of its people.